Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English easy. So Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is miserable. Then we will continue with feature and consistent. Then get along with. And the final one is go down the drain.
Let's start with the first word, Eric.
Today's first word is miserable.
Miserable.
Miserable is an adjective. It means extremely unhappy, uncomfortable, or in a very unpleasant situation.
That's right. When someone is miserable, they feel very sad or are having a really bad time.
Let me give an example sentence. The rain made our camping trip miserable. It means that the rain caused their camping trip to be very unpleasant and not enjoyable. Now it's your turn, Lisa. Can you give us another example?
Sure. Here's another example. John felt miserable after failing his driving test. It means that John was very unhappy and upset because he didn't pass his driving test.
Good example, Lisa. Now, let's hear a short dialogue using the word miserable.
Hi, Tom. You look miserable today. What's wrong?
I feel miserable, Sarah. I have a terrible cold.
Oh, no. Have you taken any medicine?
Yes, but I still feel awful. This weather makes it even more miserable.
That was a good example, Lisa. It shows how people use miserable in everyday situations.
Yes, and it also shows that miserable can describe both how someone feels and the situation they're in. Eric, do you have any personal experiences when you felt miserable?
Oh, definitely. Once I remember feeling miserable when I had to stay inside all week because I was sick. It was hard not being able to go out and do things I enjoyed.
That sounds awful. So, Eric, do you think miserable is a formal or informal word?
I'd say it's more informal, but we can use it in many situations. And it's quite common, especially when people want to express strong negative feelings or describe very unpleasant situations.
That's right. It really emphasizes how bad someone feels or how unpleasant a situation is.
Absolutely. So, listeners, remember, miserable is used when you feel really unhappy or uncomfortable. It's more than just a little sad. It means you're having a really difficult time.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered miserable pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that. Remember, listeners, even if you make mistakes, don't feel miserable. Making mistakes is a part of learning a language.
Well said, Eric. Okay, what is the next word?
All right, Lisa. The next word we have is feature.
Feature.
Feature is a noun, and it means an important part or characteristic of something. It can also be a verb, meaning to include something important.
Exactly, Eric. When we say something has a feature, we're talking about a specific part that stands out or makes it special. It could be something about a product, a movie, or even a person.
Now let's move on to some examples to help understand better.
Sure, Eric. Go ahead with the first example.
Here's the first one. The new phone has a lot of great features, like a high-quality camera and a long-lasting battery. It means that the phone has important parts that make it stand out, such as the camera and battery.
Great example, Eric. Here's another one. The park features a beautiful lake and many walking trails. It means that the park includes these things as important parts of what makes it special.
Now, let's talk about a quick grammar tip. Feature can be used as both a noun and a verb. When used as a noun, it talks about a characteristic, like the feature of a product. As a verb, it means to include something, like the show features famous actors. Another example could be, the app features an easy-to-use interface, meaning the app includes this important part to make it better.
Exactly. Now let's move on to a short dialogue to show how feature can be used naturally in conversation.
I heard the new car has some amazing features. Is that true?
Yes. It features an automatic parking system and a sunroof. I think those are really great additions.
Wow, that sounds impressive. I'd love to try the parking feature.
That was a good example of how feature can be used in a conversation. Eric, could you tell us about something that has cool features?
Sure, I recently bought a new coffee machine, and one of its best features is that it can make multiple types of coffee, like espresso and cappuccino. It makes mornings a lot easier.
That sounds really good. So, listeners, remember, feature is quite a common word that is used in both formal and informal contexts.
And it can be used to describe an important part of something, whether it's a product, a place, or even an experience.
Good point, Eric. I think now our followers understand what it means. Let's move on to our next word.
Okay, Lisa. The next word is consistent.
Consistent.
Consistent is an adjective. It means to be the same or similar over time, or to always continue in the same way.
That's right. When something is consistent, it means it doesn't change much, or it happens regularly.
Exactly. Let me give an example sentence. The restaurant has consistent quality. The food is always good. It means that the restaurant's food is good every time you go there, not just sometimes.
Good example. Let me give the next one. She has been consistent with her exercise routine, working out 3 times a week. This means that she exercises regularly without skipping or changing her routine.
Let me give a short note about how to use consistent. It's often followed by with when you're talking about an action or a habit. For example, she is consistent with her studies. Now, let's show how consistent can be used in a short dialogue.
Tom, your performance has been very consistent this season.
Thanks, Coach. I've been trying to be consistent in my training.
It shows. Your consistent effort is paying off in games.
I'm glad to hear that. I'll keep trying to be consistent.
It was a good example, Lisa. It shows how people use consistent in real-life situations.
Yes, and it also shows that being consistent is often seen as a positive quality.
Yes, that's right.
Eric, have you had any times when being consistent helped you?
Oh, definitely. When I started learning to play the guitar, I practiced every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. Being consistent really helped me get better.
That's a perfect example. Do you think consistent is a common word in English, Eric?
Yes, it's quite common. You'll hear it in many different situations like school, work, sports, or even in personal habits. People use it when they talk about doing something regularly or keeping a steady quality.
Well, it's more specific than just saying always or the same.
Exactly, Lisa. And consistent can be used in both formal and casual situations. It's a great word to describe steady effort or a regular habit.
Yes, good point, Eric. Well, I think we've explained consistent pretty well. Let's move on to our next word.
All right, Lisa. The next word we have is get along with.
Get along with.
Get along with is a phrasal verb, and it means to have a friendly relationship with someone. When you get along with someone, it means you like them and enjoy spending time with them. It's about being friendly and not having problems.
Exactly, Eric. If you get along with someone, it means you can easily talk to them, you don't fight, and you enjoy each other's company.
Now, let's move on to some examples to make this clearer.
Sure, Eric. Could you start first?
Okay, here's the first one. I get along with my coworkers really well, and we often have lunch together. It means that I have a good relationship with my coworkers, and we like spending time together.
Great example, Eric. Here's another one. My little brother and I didn't always get along, but now we're really close. It means that when we were younger, we might have fought or not gotten along well, but now we have a good relationship.
Now, let's talk about a quick grammar tip. Get along with is always followed by the person or people you are talking about. For example, get along with your classmates or get along with your neighbors. It shows who you have a good relationship with.
Exactly, Eric. It's important to remember to use with after get along so it's clear who you're talking about.
Good point, Lisa. Now, let's move on to a short dialogue to show how get along with can be used in conversation.
I heard you met your new neighbor. How did it go?
It went really well. We get along with each other. He's really friendly.
That's awesome. It's always nice when you get along with your neighbors.
I agree. It makes living next door so much better.
That was a good example of how get along with can be used naturally. Eric, do you have any experiences where getting along with someone made a big difference?
Oh yes. When I started my new job, I made an effort to get along with everyone on my team. It made work so much more enjoyable and less stressful. What about you?
For me, I also remember getting along with my classmates when I was in school. It made group projects a lot easier and more fun.
So, listeners, remember that getting along with means having a friendly relationship with someone. It's all about being kind and enjoying spending time with others.
Okay, let's move on to the last word of today.
All right. The last word today is down the drain.
Down the drain.
Down the drain is an idiom, and it means that something has been wasted or lost. It is often used to talk about money, time, or effort that is used but wasted.
If something goes down the drain, it means all the hard work or money was lost, and you can't get it back. It's a way to say that everything was wasted.
Now, let's talk about a quick grammar tip before moving on to the example sentences. Down the drain is usually used after the verb go, like all money we saved went down the drain. All the effort we put in went down the drain.
Now, let's give some examples.
Here's one. All the money I spent fixing my old car went down the drain when it broke again. It means that the money spent on repairs was wasted because the car broke again, so it didn't help in the end.
Good example, Eric. Here's another one. The project was canceled, so 18 months of work down the drain. This means that the effort put into the project for 18 months was wasted because the project was canceled and nothing came out.
Now, let's move on to a short dialogue to show how down the drain can be used in a conversation.
Did you hear that? The company canceled the new product line?
Yeah, I heard. All the money they spent on it just went down the drain.
I know it's such a waste. They put in a lot of effort, but all of it was down the drain.
That was a good example of how down the drain can be used to describe wasted time or effort. Eric, do you have any personal experiences where something went down the drain?
Oh yes, I remember spending hours working on a computer program and then my computer crashed and I lost everything. All that effort just went down the drain. What about you, Lisa?
That sounds frustrating, Eric. I also remember planning a big outdoor party and then it rained all day. All the plans were just down the drain.
So, listeners, remember, down the drain is a way to say that something was wasted or lost. It's often used when we feel disappointed that our time, money, or effort was for nothing.
And down the drain is mostly used in casual conversation, but you can hear it in more serious situations too. It's a great way to express when something doesn't work out as planned. Well, I think we've reached the end of our podcast. We hope you found the words today helpful.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English.
See you next time.
Bye.